finally back on the CBR motor, trying to get the block out to the machine shop and the coders. We're going to bore this cylinders over to a 954. We have some new pistons, some JE Racing pistons. Show you them in a second. But we're going to send it up to Power Seal in up by King of Prussia, PA. All right, so we got some JE pistons. So they're going to be basically a bore size of a 954. So we're going to take our 929, get it bored, recoated with Nicosil coating, and these are the new pistons. Nice piece. Going to add a little bit more compression. Again, it's going to be nice with the cams we're going to put in it, web cams, and then the port and polish that we're going to do on the heads. Hopefully makes a nice performance addition.
So with this being going towards a race bike, we're going to send the forks and then the rear shock to Mark Built Racing in Cedarville, New Jersey. So Brad definitely wanted this bike to handle correctly and also have the power down. So we're going to send this to their suspension shop and get it tuned, and hopefully we'll see what it can do.
But as you know, we took the motor apart because there was a noise. Brad had heard the noise in it, and it had like a knocking. I never heard it, but he had told me it did. This motor was rebuilt supposedly by a professional shop. So we started investigating and thought maybe we would find something in the bottom end. So we've we ran our chart. So we have our numbers here are off the block and off the crank. And as you can see, I got my cylinders marked from the top view. This is as if you were sitting on the bike. Number 1 cylinder is on the left. So here I'm showing the main journals of the crank, and basically here's the numbers that correlate. So off the crank is here, you got 3, and the next one is A, so that's a 3A, and the L means from the left, and that's from the left from the bike sitting on the bike. So this is number 1 cylinder, here's left, 3A, 2B, and so on, as you can see. I also wrote in there, noted the colors that they should be: yellow, yellow, pink, pink, yellow, which we noticed in the block. Some of the bearings are color coded. Some have no color, either they wore off or maybe they were wiped off with some lacquer thinner when put in. We also noted the top and bottom bearing numbers. I wanted to see if even the bearing numbers matched. I don't know too much about the bikes, but I'm assuming that these numbers should match. One thing that you do see right here in the center journal, which is where we have the issue. So yellow, yellow, these bearings all match. Here's another yellow, those bearings match number-wise. So pink, we have this bearing number, top and bottom, they're the same. We should have another pink in the center, which we have, here's a part number that matches the pink, but we have this part number, it's on the bottom section, basically the bottom crankcase section. We have this part number, and it does have green paint marking on it. So right there, we have 2 bearing halves that are different. Green being one that shouldn't even be in there, and I believe this one, pink, with that part number matching these, which this bearing does have pink on it, they match. So this is the start of the issue. We have a green bearing on the bottom of the crankcase where it should be another pink. So here is the top block section. I have it upside down. Here's our center bearing, which we just showed in the little layout I did. We have a bearing in there. That's the bearing that was in there. And we have a little issue. That should not do that. Why did it do it? First, I really didn't know. I thought maybe the thickness had wore down, but as you can see, it wasn't spinning. Now there is a nice burn mark in there, as you can see right there. So I thought, well, maybe this bearing was an old one and got wore out, but it's not. It measures the same thickness as a bearing out of the top of the same part number. So it fits in there as it should. Comes out. Again, there's no scoring. It was not spinning. Thought maybe that it was spinning and just machined the bearing down, but it didn't. So why did that happen? Well, what we found out is either this bearing was dropped and made this OD tighter. Either they dropped it and it dented it down, or they tried to put it in, maybe wrong, and pre-flexed it. But as you can see, I could just drop it in there and we can move it back and forth. That's not good. All right, so here's the crank. So we just showed that the bearing just wobbled around in the actual case itself. So here's the center journal. And again, the journals don't look bad. Again, this was rebuilt. Did somebody clean the crank up? But you can see there's definitely a burn mark in this center. Well, when I go to put this on, it actually, because it's bent, it actually sticks. It'll actually pop off of there. So it's like a spring. So it's putting undue tension on that main journal. So why that is and what they did to this bearing, I have no idea. But this outside dimension has been flexed in, bent in, either dropped or just somebody squeezed it. But definitely is a main issue of this bike.
Hey guys, I want to do a little explaining on this Honda CBR929 engine. For all my maybe auto motorhead enthusiasts out there, because these Honda Japanese engines, are a little different. They are definitely high tolerance machining and even clearancing on the bearings. So maybe a little explanation for you guys, because if you watch this video, you may think, what the heck? Yes, each journal, bearing journal, either main or rod bearing journal, does and could have a different bearing in it. Unlike the traditional car engines that we've all been building, myself included, for 30 plus years with my father, is you buy a set of bearings for main or rod. The biggest thing you need to know is what did you undersize maybe your crank if you refinished it, or your rod, so you get a 20 thousandths or a 10 thousandths oversized bearing, so it's a little thicker because you machined off the crank or the journal and the cranks. That's not the case here with Honda, and I'm going to explain to you how the Japanese, to keep tolerances on all those journals and bearings to a very, very tight, equal clearance. So it's a learning curve here for some of us guys, but very interesting. All right, guys, so this is how you determine what thickness bearing goes inside of each journal, or for each journal. So on this crank, there's some numbers stamped from the factory. You see the top number, L32222. That is the main bearing journals. That is the code for the main. There's 5 main bearing journals here. The L is noted for the left side, so that's how you're looking at the engine from sitting basically on top of a bike, looking down at it. Number 1 cylinder is on the left. The numbers on the bottom here, as you can see, there's or letters, are 4 letters, and they are for the 4 rods, the big end of the rod journals. So we saw the numbers on the crank, then each block, very unique for every bike, has letters on it. And again, there's 5 letters for the 5 main journals. Here's a half of the main journal. This is a 2-part case. Again, every bike has a unique crank number and a unique block number. So I wrote down, here's the number off the crank. Again, the 5 numbers represent the 5 journals starting from the left. Here's the letters from the crankcase that we saw on the crankcase. Again, each bike, each engine has a unique set of numbers and letters. There's even an A, B, and a C, which we don't have a C, but we'll show you that in a Honda chart. So what that represents is, here's my number 1 cylinder looking from the top of the bike. I got 1, 2, 3, 4 cylinder. Here's my journals, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. From the left side, I go 3A, 3A. Now you see there's a yellow. They even note the bearings by color. So the bearings actually have a color painted on the edge, not on the bearing surface, but on the edge surface. So 3A, 2B, 2A, 2A, 2B. So 3A is a yellow, 2B is a yellow, and you say, well, how is that the case? And I'll show you that in the chart right up here. So here's right out of the Honda manual. All right, if you notice, if I go, here's the main journal OD code, okay? That's the number that is on the actual crank, that's a 2. Here's the letter that's on the case, crankcase ID. You run them across, and it actually is a yellow or a D bearing. So could get confusing, a lot of numbers, a lot of letters, but just follow the chart. So we had 2 yellows, which was a 3A in the 2B. So we just did the 2B, and it says yellow. Well, here's a 3A, and it's a yellow. So it's going by the different tolerances that were machined in the case, or the block, whichever you want to call it, in the actual journal machining. So amazing, but yes, you could have 5 different bearing. You could have 5 different bearings in an engine from Honda. Now, most of them aren't like that. As you see, I got a couple. I got yellow, yellow, and yellow on the end. We do have the 2 pinks, but yes, you could have, you know, a yellow, white, pink, green, and brown technically, but I don't believe that that's the case. That would be a really, really out of whack machining. But that's a little information for you guys that are your automotive motorheads that are, you know, used to buying a set of main bearings and rod bearings, and just you know, looking at the oversize of what you machined your crank. But these little Honda engines in the street bikes, and I'm assuming that maybe Suzuki and Kawasaki do the same. Maybe, maybe not. Now these motors are spinning over 10,000 RPM, so you know, correct clearances, I get it, are very important. So hey, I hope you like that information. If you ever talk to somebody that has a street bike, and you actually can understand what the heck they're talking about, because in reality, when I first saw it, I was like, how and why would you do that?
Soda blast here. This is the one half. Still have to do the other half. But you wanted to itself looks not too shabby. So this is the inside of the motor here. Definitely better than what it was. Still has a couple little just stains on it. I'm gonna try to go back with some wheel cleaner and make it a little more shinier. Well, as you can see right here, we have the motor all soda blasted and ready to go, so we can send that to the motor shop to get it plated. So, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and make sure you